Hi everyone, Namaste. This is Jano Anjali Kochar. Welcome back to my channel, Tookwings Blog by Jano Anjali Kochar. So, as you all know, that we are, having our wedding series in place in October. So, today's podcast was with aka a class apart wedding planner, Divya Chadha, and we spoke everything that you need to, know about wedding planning when you are just a month away or 2 months away or a couple of months away from your wedding, as I am. And so we spoke, it was a very candid conversation, I tell you, because I had my questions and she had some stories to share as well. And we spoke a lot about mental health to check when you're planning a wedding where we spoke about a checklist, a final checklist to keep in mind, how to delegate work and all the areas to be covered when it comes to last minute wedding planning. And of course we spoke about the budget, we spoke about delegating responsibilities, and what are the what is a wedding coordinator like, and what is a wedding planner's responsibility, and everything that you need to know about the wedding planning stuff. And I hope you have an amazing time listening to this conversation. I have put down the credentials of Divya in the description box. You can check it out. You can, and of course, if you need a wedding planner or coordinator, or if you're excited, or if you're not excited, if you're nervous about your wedding planning, then definitely reach out to her. Or if you're excited about your wedding planning, then also reach out to her to share your excitement. Yeah. So, yeah, go check out this podcast. It was a great conversation, you guys. Hi, Divya. Welcome to Kahaniyaan by Tookwings Blog. How are you?
I'm good, Anjali. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited. I've been enjoying your podcast so much since you launched it.
I am super excited to have you today, and super excited to have this conversation around the wedding. I mean,
It's
that's,
my forte, you know it.
yeah, of course. So, even I'm getting married, and there are a lot of brides
Oh, I'm
who,
so excited for your November wedding, correct?
so, there are a lot of brides who have a lot of questions, especially when we are in October, and there are November brides, there are December brides, January, February brides who are excited, but as much as they're excited, they're nervous as well, right? So we are going to deal with a lot of questions and you're going to answer it for us. But before that, at Took Wings, we have this tradition that we start our podcast with one story that defines you, and then we'll shoot you
Oh
with
my
a lot
God.
of questions.
Oh my God, a story that defines me. What are we talking about? Are we talking about how I became a wedding planner?
Definitely.
So, this is a great story because it was completely by accident. Completely by accident. So, anyone who knows me knows that I've always been the go-to party girl. I've loved organizing parties and events my whole life. Like since I was a kid in school, university, I always did that. And then when I graduated from university, back in, oh my God, this makes me sound so old now, like back in 2000, 2002, actually, I graduated from university and I came out and set up my first business, which was Events Horizon. This was a company focused on private memberships and integrating the social nightlife in London. So this was the whole company. It was all about nightlife, parties, great curated events. And I had all these couples and people who would come to my events and they would have a blast. And a couple of years into it, one of my couples actually asked me if I could organize an engagement party. And they said they were looking for a unique venue and could I do something with this? And I said, well, you know what? I've never planned an engagement party per se, but I was doing a yacht party and I invited them to have a level of the yacht.
Hmm.
When we came onto the yacht, they were so happy with the entire setup that they asked me, can I plan their wedding? And
Hmm.
again, full disclosure, I actually had to tell them, look, guys, I've never planned a wedding before. Are you sure you want me as your wedding planner? Like, I don't know the first thing about flowers, linen, cutlery, crockery. You talk to me about the bar and the music and the DJ and entertainment, I'm on it. But
Hmm.
crockery, cutlery, flowers, the really girly girl things. Like, I don't know anything about this. And the couple told me, they're like, Divya, you actually throw a fantastic party, and that's why we want you. We don't want a boring wedding. We want like a cool wedding.
Hmm.
And it was a fusion wedding. It was actually a Catholic Gujarati wedding that I
Okay.
did. It was my first one. and it was almost 250 people. It was at a country club in the UK.
Mm,
I didn't even have a car. I had to like take a cab over there. I didn't
mm,
know anything about flowers. I had to call all the suppliers and talk to them and learn from them.
mm.
And this wedding went off without a hitch. It was just me by myself, nobody, no team, no one around me, and me relying on other people's advice in order to make sure things happened.
Right.
And off the bat of that, it was so great. I had a really big buzz from it. And then by the time it was over, I had at least five, six people come up to me and say, "Oh, can you give us your business card? We'd love to call you for a wedding." And I'm like, "Oh, my business card says I'm a party planner for nightclubs. It doesn't say anything about weddings." And
Mm,
then the guest who was at this wedding who invited me and wanted to talk to me, they actually asked me for a destination wedding in India. I
mm,
hadn't been to India in over 10 years because I grew up overseas, as you know. So,
mm,
my background is Dubai, London, Montreal. I hadn't been to India in over 10 years.
mm,
And again, I'm all about honesty and being ethical. So I tell the couple and the family, I said, "Look, guys, haven't been to India in 10 years. I've never planned a wedding over there. I
mm,
don't know anything about it. And my Hindi is kind of rusty."
mm.
Family of the couple were brilliant. You know what they told me? "We haven't been to India in 20 years. Our language skills are rusty, so let's do this together." And that's how I got my first destination wedding. And after that, it's just been one wedding after the other. So it was a complete accident, never meant to go into weddings, but it happened and it was fun.
Lovely. So, do you enjoy planning Indian weddings more or overseas?
Honestly, I love throwing a great party. So it
Mm,
doesn't matter where the wedding is, to be honest. Like it could be in India, it could be in Mauritius, it could be in Thailand or Turkey. But the
mm.
point is, it's one big party. And as
Right.
long as my couple are having a great time, that's all that matters. Like for me, the bottom line is the planning of the wedding is
Mm,
just fun for me. And
right.
then watching it unfold, like for me, the best part of planning a wedding is not like the actual planning part, but when the actual wedding is taking place,
Mm.
watching it unfold, and I can just stand there in the corner and be like, "Oh, I did that. That's all mine."
I know, right? So, in India, I believe like when I was also starting the planning of my
Mhm.
right? So I believe that the concept of wedding planner is still booming. I mean, it's still
Yes.
a very early or middle stage. That's what I understood, right? I even like my family and I wanted to have a wedding planner, but then we were in two minds, and there are a lot of like my friends who have been through the same situation.
Mhm.
So here we want to plan our wedding ourselves as well as we want someone to guide us as well, right?
Of course.
So for the people who don't are not working with a wedding planner as of now, and it's October now, and there are
Mm.
wedding season is just right around the
It
corner.
is like weddings will start from November onwards now. So like my advice to anyone right now is if you do not have a wedding planner and you
Mm,
plan to do your wedding yourself, get on a consultation call with a wedding planner or a coordinator
mm,
because their insights will be so valuable to you, whether or not you hire them. Because the trait of a good wedding planner is giving you the right information, right?
right.
So I do many, many consults. A lot of the times, the couples may not hire me,
Mm,
but the information that I share with them, I truly hope helps them in their
mm,
planning process because at the end of the day, even if I'm not your wedding planner, but you ever spoke to me, I
mm,
want you to have the best wedding ever. Like, I just want you to have a great time.
right. So for if we talk about the last minute wedding planning, if someone who is planning their wedding themselves and it is like very last minute for them to
Mhm.
plan a wedding, so what would be your like quick tips for them, like something to keep handy? I mean, some quick tips that would help them out.
Okay, so quick tips if you're planning your wedding yourself. Okay, so the first thing first is communication. Like, be clear about your communication. Keep an open line of communication with everybody. So if you're talking to the hotel yourself, put everything in writing. Double check, triple check. Just put everything in writing, because what happens is you're not the only wedding a hotel is planning, right? They have different systems, they have different events. So you want to make sure that you're on top of your game by keeping your line of communication clear.
Hmm.
Secondly, prioritize. Prioritize the things that are important for you and what matters the most for you, because there are going to be aspects of your wedding that are more important and they're non-negotiable, and there are other aspects which you don't mind. So, for example, if you as a bride, your non-negotiable is that you need nana nani dada dadi right in the front with, like, and to be honored and remembered. Let's say somebody has passed and this is very important for you, focus on that. Don't worry about other things, just make sure that those key areas are done for you. If
Hmm.
your priority is your photographs,
Hmm.
when you're getting your wedding photography done and you're spending money to get a really good photographer,
Hmm.
allow yourself the time to give that photographer the opportunity to take the beautiful photos that you want. Don't rush into it. Even if people are saying everything's running late and we're delayed, but you paid for that service. Give yourself that 30 minutes to get the photos that you want, because otherwise you're just going to feel like, oh, what did I do? I didn't get the pictures I wanted. And it's
Hmm.
heartbreaking when that happens.
Hmm.
Third thing, delegate. Delegate.
Hmm.
Yes, I know you're the cool bride and I know you can do it yourself and you're a good person when it comes to planning things, but it's your wedding after all.
Hmm.
You don't want to be doing the work of a planner and of a manager, and you don't want to be kind of over obsessing about, did the flowers reach and has the pundit arrived and is the food laid out and is my decor in check? You don't want to be doing that. So what you want to do is delegate. Find your best friend, find a trustworthy cousin or an uncle and auntie who's like super hands-on,
Hmm.
and get them and assign them specific tasks.
Hmm.
Don't just say, oh, you take care of food. No, be really specific. You're in charge of lunch, you're in charge of dinner, and you, cousin, are in charge of dessert because you're a dessert fiend. Yeah?
Hmm.
Well, you could call me to plan the dessert. I love dessert, so I would do it. Those are definitely three things I'd say that you have to do. Keep your communication, get your priorities right, delegate your work, and obviously, if you're planning your own wedding, be flexible. Just be
Hmm.
flexible, because you can't control everything. It's very difficult to control everything. And especially once you're in hair and makeup and you're starting to walk down the aisle or you're doing your entries, does anything else really matter? Just
Right.
go with it. So, to all my brides, if you want to be a bride chiller, like if you're a bride to be and you want to be a bride chiller, go with the flow. Just go with it. Just go with it. Don't let things upset you.
Right. No, that's the best advice I would say because I remember I got engaged in January and
Hmm.
at that moment when I was getting engaged, I was bride chilla. Like I was just enjoying the moment and I was happy that everything is happening and I was not worried about a lot of things that
Yeah.
are not going my way or going that way or that this way, right? But then
Hmm.
started planning actually like after the engagement when I got into the business of planning things in venue and hotel and so it was then I became a bridezilla, I would say. I was like I
It
freaked out.
happens. You are entitled a bridezilla moment. I would
Right,
prefer my brides to be bride chillers, but when you DIY your wedding and when you try and do it yourself,
right.
there will be times you will be bridezilla. Just
Hmm.
let your groom know in advance, and he will be prepared to handle you with care and love and all the nice things that you need to bring you back to bride chiller zone.
Right, right. So I think now we should talk about the advice for grooms to be then, how to
Oh my
calm
God.
the brides down then.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought this up, Anjali, because so many people, when it comes to weddings, especially Indian weddings, they forget about the groom. And
Hmm.
it's the groom's wedding too. The poor guy needs some advice and he needs help. And, his boys are not there to support him. We girls, as women, we have our tribe. We have our girl
Mm.
tribe. We have all the ladies supporting us.
Right.
If you tell any woman you're getting married, they're just going to be excited for you. You, if a poor groom tells his friends, "Oh, I'm getting married," they're going to be like, "Cool, cool." There isn't much of a response for them, and a lot of the times also, grooms don't have a clue what's going on at the wedding,
Right.
which is really, really sad.
Mm.
But the AKA grooms are very savvy, and I love it because all my grooms, at least for us, they are very hands-on, and it's great. So my advice to grooms is, guys, it's your wedding too.
Mm.
You are also getting married. So make the effort. Don't leave everything on the bride. If you have specific interests in your wedding, go do it. So typically, I find the grooms are quite happy getting involved in food,
Mm.
alcohol, so looking at the bar services, because obviously they want their friends and family to have fun. Look at the bar services, look at the different food options and the catering and the menus, because that's where you can have a lot of fun.
Mm.
And look at the entertainment side of your wedding, because I had a groom quite a few years ago who was really upset that, the whole wedding was being planned out. And he's like, I just want one thing. I want one specific band. And he's like, nobody in my family, none of my bride side of the family, nobody was giving him the time of the day to look at this band.
Mm.
And I was the wedding planner.
Mm.
So I made the inquiries, I checked it out, and then I had to pitch it to the family as if it was my idea,
Mm.
just so Groomy could get his say. Because, you know, every time he brought up something, it just wasn't being taken as seriously. It was, oh, it's the bride's side. They have to pick. They have to pick. So the groom kind of gets left behind, even when they want to do something.
Mm.
So it's really important, grooms, that you also take a stand and make sure you let people know this is your wedding too. You're allowed to participate in it, and you should, because you don't want to be looking back at your wedding and thinking, oh my God, nothing happened the way I wanted. So
Mm.
put the effort, it's important. And work with the finances. Help your bride to be with the finances because it's a lot of work. And if you don't have a wedding planner, you need to be sitting on Excel. So one of my grooms was actually an accountant, and it
Mm.
was great working with him because obviously he did all the math work. So even if I gave him spreadsheets, he was like, oh, let me just make it more cohesive. Let me make it understand like this. And he's like putting percentages and macros and formulas. I got a really great spreadsheet out of that wedding. He totally fixed up my spreadsheets.
Lovely. I find this very relatable when I, hear this story about the groom. So, my groom is very hands-on in the wedding
Mm,
planning and stuff, and in the finances, and of course, also in making those Excel sheets and, planning the.
brilliant. I'm so happy for you. That's good. It's a
But
headache you
then
don't want.
right. But then the thing here is that, and I think it is a very common problem. We as brides, like us girls as brides, have some sort of expectations for our weddings that, the
Mhm.
dreams we saw as children when we were playing with Barbie dolls, we wanted to, dress up as brides, and we had a lot of expectations. And now when we are getting married, we want to fulfill all those expectations, and then there are calls of budget, then there are calls of families not
Mhm.
accepting your ideas and everything.
Of
So
course, it's a
what
hard sell with Indian families, like just getting your ideas accepted.
Right, right. So, as grooms, I don't think they have so many expectations to be fulfilled or any, childhood dreams to be fulfilled. But as brides, we do have such dreams, right? So there always becomes a clash between bride and groom while a wedding has been planned together. So,
Yeah.
what do you advise?
So my advice would be talk it through before you start getting into the nitty-gritty of planning. It's really important to do an exercise together, right?
Hmm.
So I advise all my couples to do an exercise, which is tell me what you want from your wedding.
Hmm.
Write it down. So I ask them, what's your dream venue?
Hmm.
Ask each other, where do you think you want to get married? Ask each other, what do you want out of your wedding? Like, what's the vibe you want from your wedding? So I always ask my couples, what's the vibe? And surprisingly enough, you will get different vibes. Like suddenly you will hear that the groom wants one type of vibe and the bride wants one. And then the point here is, even like from a planner perspective, is I have to find a way to merge both of these together. Find
Mm,
something that meets his requirements and meets her requirements.
mm,
Okay, so just as a quick example, I was talking to a really lovely couple, and the bride was all about the palaces and the forts of Rajasthan because she has dreamt, as you said, rightly dreamt of this beautiful fairy tale wedding.
mhm,
And I could just see the groom's face on this video call, and he just looked really like not interested in this. So I
mm,
asked him, I said, what about you? Where do you want to get married? And
mm,
he said, actually, I would just love a beach wedding. I want something super fun and beachy. And there, I'm so sorry about that. I would want something super beachy and whatnot. And I ended up giving them a suggestion because they wanted to get married in India. I said, well, we know we don't have beaches in Rajasthan, right?
mm,
Have you ever seen a beach in Rajasthan? Nah. But
mm,
I have found a beautiful palatial style hotel
mm,
on the beach in
mm,
South India. And I gave it to them as a suggestion. And they were like, wow, where did you find this property? How did it come about?
mm,
And I said, well, this is the whole point of talking to a planner because we have expertise and we have,
mm,
we know of a lot of spaces, we understand venues, we understand the requirements of couples, and
mm,
that's how I can give you suggestions. So it's really important for all couples. Do this exercise. Ask each other what the vibe is for the wedding. Ask each other what kind of venue you want.
mm,
Ask each other, who do you want at the wedding?
mm,
Do you want a small intimate wedding? Do you want something that's more focused on your friends and your family? Do you want something that's a big fat wedding?
mm,
Obviously you take into consideration what your folks want as well, but really it's about understanding what is important for the three of you.
mm,
You know, for the two of you, sorry, not three of you. Well, I always say three because the wedding planner is always in the conversation. So I will always cheekily say, look, it's our love affair together. So when
mm,
I talk to my couples, I'm like, look, guys, we three are in a relationship. Like this is a long-term planning process for
mm,
us. I'm not going away anytime soon.
mm,
So definitely those areas is what you want to focus on.
mm. Right. So, earlier you mentioned about delegating responsibilities, and
Mhm.
it comes really handy for us girls. Our bridesmaid are all over, very
Yes, they're
excited
very
about the wedding,
excited.
you know. So, what do you suggest the bridesmaid? How do we delegate the responsibilities, and what should they keep in mind when it is about the last minute wedding planning? It's just right around the corner.
So honestly, so while I love the idea of your bridesmaids helping out,
Mm,
I also feel, and this is a bit of a controversial opinion, I also feel like why should they have to do all this work? They're also here for your wedding and they also want to have fun.
yeah.
But having said that, when you delegate to your bridesmaids, you want to kind of ensure that you've got one really responsible person
Mm,
who is there to keep you, the bride, in check and just watch the timelines for you at every single moment.
mm,
Then you can allocate other bridesmaids. So obviously, bridesmaids is not a common concept in India, but it is taking place now. We are showing off our bridesmaids and our best girlfriends and our favorite cousins all in line over here. But for example, I would tell a bride, you delegate to a cousin who
mm,
knows your family very well and can identify family to
mm.
grab people for photos, like when you want to do big group photos, because your photographer is not going to know what your family members look like.
Right.
Okay? But if you delegate the photography aspect
Mm,
to a cousin who knows all the family, has their way with them, can get them to move, that's a great delegation. And
mm,
then you delegate someone who's good with music and entertainment, right?
mm,
And then you can say, look, you need to make sure that our girls are ready for the Sangeet dances. So you tell that one responsible friend or the one who choreographed the dances,
Mhm.
hey, you're in charge of making sure everyone's on time for the Sangeet or for the entries, the bridal entries and things
Right.
like that. You kind of want to delegate tasks to people who the job suits.
Hmm.
Like you don't want to give your party bridesmaid the
Hmm.
responsibility of making sure Panditji comes with all the saman, but you'd give it to the bridesmaid who is a bit more responsible and
Hmm.
give the party bridesmaid the responsibility of getting people on the dance floor
Right.
when once you finished your first dance or when the DJ kicks off because people are a bit shy, it takes some time to get onto the dance floor. Tell
Hmm.
that party bridesmaid, go grab my parents and grab his parents and just bring them on the dance floor, and
Hmm.
that's going to be so much more fun.
Hmm.
It's also about allocating responsibilities accordingly.
Hmm. No, I think those were really helpful advice, and my bridesmaid are going to listen to it. Definitely, I'm going to
Yes, I love it. Do it, do it, do it. That'll be
definitely.
so fun.
Right. So, when it comes to weddings, of course, it is wedding. One thing is wedding, one thing is marriage, and stress is about both. Like, I'll
Yes.
tell you my opinion. So, yeah, I'm stressed about the wedding as much as I'm stressed about the fact that I don't know, 3 months later, I would be like married. I would be a different person altogether, right? So, how do you advise the brides to be to, understand the fact that yes, there is a wedding and then there is a marriage as well. So how do we create that balance?
Ooh, you really put me in a tizzy. This is a good one. This is a good question. So first of all, open communication, right?
Hmm.
Like you have to communicate with your partner because a lot of the times what I notice is that couples get so involved in the wedding planning,
Hmm.
and the hoo-ha and the shore show. Oh my God, I'm getting married.
Hmm.
That you forget to discuss the important things, which is the
Right.
actual marriage, right?
Hmm.
So, for example, your case, yours is a love marriage,
Yes.
right? So, when you're having a love marriage, a lot of times couples just don't communicate clearly
Hmm.
about their long term expectations. So, everyone has these short term expectations that we have with our partner,
Hmm.
but we don't discuss the long term.
Hmm.
And the long term is things like how are we going to prepare our finances? The boring stuff,
Hmm.
not the nice stuff, the boring stuff. How
Hmm.
are we going to divide our finances? How are
Hmm.
we going to allocate household chores? How are we going to allocate time for one another? How do we decide whose family we're going to visit for which festival?
Hmm.
Right? So these are conversations that you really must start having and understanding because, for example, with most Indian families, the couple have never lived together.
Hmm.
You're getting married and now you're going to live together for the first time.
Hmm.
You may want to have a discussion about how you like your room.
Hmm.
May want to have a discussion about, hey, look, I take 1 hour to get ready, and the guy may take 5 minutes. Or you could be in a situation where the guy actually takes longer to get ready. I have a couple that I got married, the groom used to take longer than the bride to get ready because
Hmm.
he was into his styling and he wanted his photos and he wanted everything perfect for him.
Hmm.
But now when you talk about long term, you talk about how are we going to save money? What
Hmm.
about children? What about how we're going to invest our money? How are we going to divide household chores? Who's
Hmm.
going to cook the food? Can we afford to have a chef come in? Can we afford to have a house help come
Right.
in?
Hmm.
Um, Maybe you're used to driving a certain type of car, and then, the man likes to ride a motorbike, but you're scared of motorbikes. Maybe you want to have a conversation. Hey, how are we going to do this? Are we going to have a car and a motorbike, or are we going to get a car that we both like? Or hey, maybe you want to learn how to ride a motorbike. I don't know. I would love to ride a motorbike. So, it's about having these really important conversations
Hmm.
in terms of your actual marriage, because that's important. See, the wedding happened and it was great, but what's the point of having this beautiful wedding if you have not discussed living your life with each other?
Hmm.
It's really important because unfortunately, this is the reason of divorce nowadays.
Hmm.
The sheer number of divorce cases that are increasing, especially in India right now, is due to the fact that the couples have never had the opportunity to communicate with each other. They've never had the opportunity to understand, what life is going to be like after the wedding, especially in an arranged marriage scenario.
Hmm.
If you're going into an arranged marriage, for example, maybe you want to talk about, am I going to live with my in-laws or are we going to live separately? Is it a joint family? How many other relatives are living in the house? Like, do you have a brother and a sister or a brother who's married with a wife and children also living in the house, for example? You
Hmm.
want to know all of that and how all of that will unveil itself for you because
Right.
you as a bride to be are going into a new home. So let's say if you as a bride to be are going into a house which is already established,
Hmm.
you need to also think about the relationship you have with your future in-laws.
Hmm.
Are they, are they chilled out? Are they really conservative? Are they open to
Hmm.
you as a person? Will they be exactly like how your own mom and dad are with
Hmm.
you? Because let's face it,
Hmm.
we can do anything we want with our moms and dads, or we can get away with anything. It doesn't matter. There are
Hmm.
mom and dads that are going to accept what we do, right?
Hmm.
Like they'll be like, oh, clean your room and do this, pick this up, pick that up, but they'll
Hmm.
still do it for you,
Right.
right? Like, this is the beauty about coming from an Asian background, is that closeness with our families. But
Hmm.
now when you go into a marriage and you're going into a new household, you need to think of it in two or three different ways. You look at it from the arranged marriage perspective, you look at it from the love marriage perspective, and you look at it from a
Hmm.
modern family perspective where maybe the families are okay with a live-in relationship prior to marriage. So if you had the opportunity to have a live-in relationship, at least you overcome how to build on what will work in the marriage. But if you're coming in from a love marriage where you've never had the opportunity to live together and maybe only just gone on holidays or something together,
Hmm.
you're not going to know what it's like. Like maybe I like brushing my teeth for 10 minutes with my electric toothbrush,
Hmm.
and you just like to do a quick 20-second brush and run, brush and go, right? So it's
Hmm.
about understanding these habits, and the important ones are finance, like just understanding how you're going to do finance, how you're going to work your personal morals and views into your life,
Hmm.
into your behavior, right? This is so important because you don't want to lose that part of yourself. And obviously, like for me, it's very important that the guy likes animals because I love pets. I have two dogs. If
Hmm.
you don't have dogs, then we can't get married. We got a problem right there. But it's about thinking about that. So let's say you have a pet and the
Hmm.
man loves your pet. Who's going to walk the dog?
Hmm.
Who's going to feed the cat? Who's going
Hmm.
to feed the fish? Are you
Hmm.
going to take turns? Is it going to be a daily thing? It's about taking responsibility for building that life together. Like it's no longer your decision and my decision, it's our decision.
Right.
So maybe before you would just pick up and say, okay, yeah, I'm going out for a night out. But
Hmm.
now you're like, oh, hey, listen, I'm going to go out. Do you want to come? Or is it okay if I go out? Or,
Hmm.
hey, I'm having girls' night once a week. So I also tell my couples, I said, arrange date night.
Hmm.
Arrange, if you can't do it every week, at least every 2 weeks, do a date night. And if you can't do every 2 weeks, once a month, you need date night as a married couple
Hmm.
because this is going to keep that interest and spark alive because you
Hmm.
too like when you're dating someone you're doing your best to impress them
Hmm.
and then you're married so now you've got the prize. What about after? You still got to take care of your prize. You've got to clean the trophy a little bit and be like, hey, I want, I love you and I respect you and we
Hmm.
should still do the same things that we were doing before because
Hmm.
a lot of people forget to do the little things.
Right.
Date night is important. So,
Hmm.
Anjali, I expect to see your date night story. Okay. I expect to see them.
Definitely. So, that brings me to one another point. Like, I heard it from one of my friends who got married as well. That first year of marriage is always a little tricky or a little,
Mhm.
you know, difficult to
Mhm.
get. If you get through that year, then things start to become a little bit easier. I don't know if it happens or not, but yeah, maybe it just happens because you have never lived together, but then you start living together with a person, whether it is a love marriage setup or an arranged marriage setup. You
Mhm.
are living together, and
Mhm.
dating and living together as husband and wife are two different things altogether.
Exactly. It's completely different because now you are subjected to each other's nuances all the time. There is
Mm.
no getting away from each other, you
Right,
know.
right. Also in between, you also brought up a point of love marriage and arranged marriage setup. So, do you think that things are different when we are planning a wedding, let's say? Is it different when it is a love marriage and when it is an arranged marriage?
Totally. They're so different. It's unreal. It's
Mm,
unreal how different the approaches are when it comes to the marriage scenario. So, in a love marriage scenario, typically what ends up happening is that I get couples who come to me and they are the key decision makers.
hmm,
Mom and dad are on board with the wedding, but the final decisions are by the couple.
hmm,
It's their choice, their preferences, and what they say goes. Obviously, there's inputs from the family. My
hmm,
job as a wedding planner is to ensure that everybody gets
hmm,
what they want at the wedding. So, if the parents' priority is making sure that the guest hospitality is impeccable,
hmm,
that's going to, I will ensure that that is the key for
hmm,
the parents. But the couple may be thinking about, we want everyone to have a great time and we want the food to be great and we want non-stop drink service, whether it's a mocktail or a cocktail. We want this. And then we look at that aspect of it. When it comes to an arranged marriage, and I don't know, this will probably again get a little bit controversial. It's so bad. Like you're asking me questions that I have like some ridiculous answers for. So when it comes down to arranged marriages, what I found is they're just getting you married. It's the parents who are typically involved and they're only interested in the budget. They're
hmm,
not so interested in what the couple wants, and it's really sad.
hmm,
But it does happen. And I have had to deal with that a few times. I
hmm,
do try and involve the couples still, but that big difference is that even the couple are not interested enough because they barely know each other. So they're not really sure what they want
hmm,
because they barely had a chance to get to know this person in an arranged marriage scenario, let alone talk about what kind of decor and entertainment they want. You
hmm,
know, when I've asked any arranged marriage couple, like how many people did you know at the wedding? And they'll tell you barely 10, 20 people
hmm,
because that's just their friends. They
hmm.
don't know anybody else. It's sometimes also like a business deal, it's a business arrangement. Don't kill me for saying things like this, but it's true. It's very different.
Hmm,
This is not to say that all arranged marriages are like this.
hmm,
You
hmm,
have got some really lovely parents involved in arranged marriages and they're totally open to what their kids want and they do encourage it, but because the kids themselves are shy, like the couple themselves are shy,
hmm,
it just doesn't happen. But it can be done. It's not that it can't be done, but there is a massive difference. And
hmm.
personally, I love planning the love marriage weddings. They're so much fun. They're totally my vibe.
No, I completely understand that. And when it comes to wedding planning, one important aspect is about the budget, right?
Yes.
So, how do you advise that we should first, decide on a common budget? Because there are two families involved who might have different
Mhm.
budgets, right? How do we decide on budget and how, if we're talking about very last minute budget planning, and things may go out of hand, out of budget as well. So how do you is there a particular way we can keep things in budget and keep things as we want as well?
Yes, there
Mm,
is, but you
mm,
need to plan in advance.
mm,
You can't do last minute budgeting. See, what happens is the wedding industry
mm,
has a price tag. And the
mm,
minute you say wedding,
mm.
everything goes through the roof.
Right.
It's just there because your wedding is not just another party, right? So you need more people, you need more manpower, you need a higher level of service.
Mm,
So the more last minute you are with your wedding
mm.
planning, your budget is going to shoot through the roof.
Right. Mm,
Okay, because suppliers are limited. If you're picking an auspicious date, those are expensive dates.
right.
Everything is going to be more expensive
Mm-hmm.
than during the week. Weekend weddings are more expensive than a weekday wedding,
Right.
right? So you want to think about those kind of things for last minute planning and budgeting. Secondly, both families need to openly discuss what they think
Hmm.
they want to contribute to the wedding budget, right?
Hmm.
So, just for argument's sake, let's say both parties decided we are going to spend 50 lakhs each,
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
or 10 lakhs each, whatever it is. The
Hmm.
point is now you have said, I'm going to spend this much. The other side has said, we're going to spend this much.
Hmm.
But because you've never planned a wedding before, how do you know this is correct?
Right.
And this is why I keep saying, and I urge every possible bride to be and groom to be, please do your due diligence. Go and talk to a wedding planner.
Hmm.
Go and talk to a wedding coordinator because what they will do is break down your requirements
Hmm.
and give you a sort of allocated budget number for each aspect of your wedding,
Right.
right? So I was just talking to somebody yesterday. It was it was a tour operator who called me up and he said he's got one of his VIP clients who wants to do a wedding, but they live in a offbeat location
Hmm.
and they wanted to figure out where to go. Now, this is a guy who does travel, and there's me who does weddings.
Hmm.
I have no idea geographically where this location is,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? It's in India, but I've never been to it. I've never heard of it. And then I got a download on it yesterday.
Hmm.
So between the two of us, two experts, we were able to figure out which places have got direct flights for him to go to propose to potential, the client within India and externally.
Hmm.
He called me because he wanted to know, hey, is this a realistic budget for a destination wedding? And he came and
Hmm.
he gave me a number and told me how many people there are. And the budget is so reflective and personal on each family that I tell them, you can't just say this is the number because I
Hmm.
don't know what needs are. So what
Hmm.
happens is you could have a number in your mind. So now let's say we've got 50 and 50, we've got one CR as a number.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you say I've got one CR and I need to do a fully hosted wedding with 300 guests and 150 rooms for 3 days and with food and sound and light and decor, I'm going to tell you it's not going to happen in a tier one city. And I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you it's not going to happen in a destination city like Udaipur or Jaipur or
Hmm.
Jodhpur,
Hmm.
and not in a five-star because that one CR is then an unrealistic reflection for 300 people, 150 rooms, and 3 days.
Hmm.
This is my input as a wedding planner. I would say no. And then I would go on to explain how I came to these numbers,
Hmm.
right? We would then look at, hey, if we need to plan for this many people, this is approximately how much the food costs, this is how much potential drinks cost, and
Hmm.
this much will just go on food and drink. And the biggest cost of your wedding is
Hmm.
the hosted accommodation and
Hmm.
the food and beverage. This is the biggest cost of any wedding.
Hmm.
Everything else is flexible.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I have a strict rule, which I say know your fixed and variable costs. And your fixed costs are your ABCs. So A for accommodation, B for your beverages, C for your catering.
Hmm.
These three are your fixed costs. It's
Hmm.
not going to change.
Right.
Because this is the core determination of your budget.
Hmm. 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 No, absolutely. Now I remember when I was planning, I was in that planning phase, and
Mhm,
I actually had a consultation call with the planner as well. So I think it
mhm.
helped because you don't know, you're planning your wedding for the first time, right?
Exactly.
You don't know what would be the ideal cost of food, beverage, hotel accommodation, and what should be the ideal budget for the location you're planning at. So I think it is really important to have at least a consultation
Mm,
call if even if you're doing it your way, right?
exactly. Because see, it's not going to harm you, right?
Right.
Like you'll only learn something from it. So you might as well go and be completely equipped with what you need,
Hmm.
right? Because see, Anjali, and I tell this to all my couples, what is the level of service that you actually want?
Hmm.
Because we can budget for anything. I
Right.
can budget for anything, right?
Hmm.
I can tell you different ways to save money. So, do you want to use premium individual cars for your airport transfers, or do
Hmm.
you want to do a group coach service, or do you want to do through one big Innova car or a Jeep
Hmm.
per four-person family,
Hmm.
right? There are so many ways to break down, and that's just starting from transport. It
Hmm.
comes down to invitations, your stationery, it comes down to hair, makeup, photography. Because as a planner, I always tell my couples, look, I will give you 3 to 4 options
Hmm.
in different price points,
Right.
but I have to understand what you like,
Hmm.
right? So maybe Anjali, you love um Chris Appleton, who is Kim Kardashian's hairstylist, right?
Hmm.
Maybe you love the way he does hair,
Hmm.
but you're like, look, I can't afford him right now for my wedding, but
Hmm.
I would then know, oh, Anjali likes hair like this. So when I'm talking on your behalf, or when you as a couple are talking to suppliers,
Hmm.
you can then share that and say, look, I really like this style. How much would you charge for something like this?
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, you know what? I love the way your decor looks. Let me see how this goes.
Hmm.
Maybe you're a bit more eco-friendly and a bit more sustainable, where you're thinking, actually, do I need to have a printed card or should I just go with the digital card? So, like, I advise all my couples just do a digital card. You don't need a physical card, it's really not important. People are
Hmm.
going to throw your card away. And my invitation designers hate me for saying this. And
Hmm.
I feel so bad having to say it, but this is my personal thought. I would never. This is what I would advise to my couples, but then it's their choice. If you want to print all your cards, go ahead.
Hmm.
My request then would be, can we use eco-friendly paper? Or could we use seeded paper just so that people can then plant those?
Hmm.
That's my personal thing. So, but as a planner, I would advise it to you, and then it's your choice as a couple what to take on.
Hmm.
But budgeting is seriously it's one of those things that's personal to the family, it's personal to the preferences. It depends on your location. Your
Hmm.
budget is subjective to the number of guests that you have. Your
Hmm.
guest list makes up for a massive chunk of your budget.
Hmm.
So, this is not to say you could do a 100 people wedding in one CR and you could do a 200 people wedding in one CR, but the level of service will be slightly different.
Hmm.
The 100 people in one CR would probably get a more premium level of service, whereas the 200 people at one CR will get a great level of service, but it just won't be ultra premium,
Hmm.
right? And it's the same thing. Like, come on, think about it. We've all done birthday parties, right? Like, we've all gone to birthday parties. We do brunches and we do dinners and we book a restaurant or we book a villa with our friends. You
Hmm.
would have noticed the budget comes about a lot because there's communication. So we
Right.
have to be open about our communication and our expectations in order to meet our budgets. Otherwise, we're just not going to. Like, it's a conversation that will go around in circles
Hmm.
till
Hmm. Hmm.
we realize. And some of my families, like I was working with a massive diamond jeweler, right? Diamond jeweler, And then I told him, I said, you know what, uncle, I think you should do the negotiation. And he was like, why? He said, why have I hired you? And I said, no, no, you're hiring me for all the right things.
Hmm.
But the negotiation you're going to do,
Hmm.
I just know it's going to be much better than mine because this uncle spoke 4 or 5 different Indian languages, and we were looking at multi destination events.
Hmm.
So I was like, no, uncle, I need you to speak the people in the language that
Hmm.
we're looking at, because then the negotiation goes better,
Hmm.
right? I can speak Hindi, I am Punjabi, I can do Marwadi, I understand Gujarati, I understand Sindhi. I don't know anything about South Indian languages. I don't
Hmm.
even understand them. But this uncle was like fantastic at
Hmm.
Telugu. You know, he could speak Telugu and Tamil. It was like, uncle, come on, come for negotiation.
Hmm.
I had a team as well, but there was just that something different that could come about. So when we're negotiating as well, we need to know what we want in order to negotiate better.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
I know it doesn't quite answer how to plan the budget, but this is honestly, the budget is so subjective. It's so personal. Like,
Hmm.
I have got brides who've done their wedding lehengas in 80,000 rupees,
Hmm.
and I've got brides who've spent 8 lakhs on a lehenga. There was nothing, I kid you not. You
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to tell the 80,000 lehenga and the 8 lakh lehenga because all the jewelry they wore was like killer. So it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But the point is, what's comfortable for you? I've
Hmm.
had a bride who reused
Hmm.
her wedding lehenga. So she bought a beautiful lehenga, but then she added an extra top from another designer. And,
Hmm.
and then just when she went to her evening party, she wore the lehenga of the wedding, but then
Hmm.
changed the top to a more party,
Hmm.
vibey top. And it was beautiful,
Hmm.
right? And even the designer commented on that post and was like, wow, love the way you've revamped the look.
Hmm.
And this is important. So it depends on what you want and how willing and flexible you are and how openly you communicate to make sure everyone in the process and the financial decision making understands
Hmm.
how to plan the budget.
Right.
So I have got families who are like, no, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We
Hmm.
don't need anything else. But
Hmm.
obviously, if you go to a Gujarati or a Marwadi household, they'll be like, where's the nashta? Where's the high tea?
Hmm.
Right? We need that. And Punjabi families are like, where's the alcohol? Where's the booze? Vodka golgappe, we need that,
Right.
right? And then there's me, who's like, hey, what about the after party snacks? What about the late night food? We
Hmm.
need that too. And they're like, no, 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 we don't need it. We don't need it.
Hmm.
Every time I plan a wedding, closer to the date,
Hmm.
one family member, one of the fathers, comes up to me and says, you know what, I think we need that high tea. People are
Hmm.
going to come at this time. Oh, we were going to save money by not having lunch, but you know what, you were right. We need the high tea instead. If we're not going to give lunch, we need a high tea. Oh,
Hmm.
you know what, we did a 3 night wedding, and after the first night, for the
Hmm.
second day, after party, the father came up to me. He's like, can you please make sure we have food?
Hmm.
He's like, please make sure we got food at this after party. He's like, people were hungry last night and room service was slow. And I said, well, that's why I told you need after party snacks. And he's like, oh, let's do it. So
Hmm.
when a wedding planner is giving you advice, it comes from years of experience. We're
Hmm.
not telling you this because we want you to increase your budget. We're
Hmm.
telling you this because inevitably
Hmm.
it's going to happen or come up.
Right.
At
No,
some point, it's going to come up.
and I believe that there are still apprehensions among, especially Indian families, about going with a wedding planner. You know,
Yeah.
there are still apprehensions
Yes.
that way, right? So, but wedding planners are really important as well, because I think when we are planning a wedding by ourselves, we may go overboard with the budget. We may not, realize how things are getting planned as well. But when we have a planner who has experience as well, who comes with years of experience and
Mhm.
experience, right? Then it becomes easier, and then it becomes sustainable financially as well
Of
and
course.
otherwise as well, right?
Of course, like the whole purpose of having a wedding planner is to keep your budgets in check
Hmm.
and keep you on track with your wedding planning. Because the thing is, in today's day and age,
Hmm.
brides and grooms have a life. You've
Hmm.
got work, you're running your businesses, you're running a career, you've got your friends, your family, your relatives, you've got things to do. The average wedding takes over 500 hours to plan.
Hmm.
You don't have that kind of time if you are running a business. So, like for you, example, Anjali, I know you're a busy journalist. I know
Hmm.
you've started your podcast. I know you are in between, you've got editing time. And it's not just easy like to record a podcast. Like
Hmm.
you need to do editing, you've got back end time. And then at the same time, you are doing a countdown to your wedding in November.
Hmm.
So you will run out of energy and fuel for yourself.
Hmm.
And I tell couples like the planner is a great investment for you. And
Right.
if you cannot afford a full, a full-fledged planner,
Hmm.
hire a coordinator at least the month before your wedding.
Hmm.
Delegate. So you remember the delegation? If we
Hmm.
don't want to delegate to our bridesmaid, delegate it to a coordinator.
Hmm.
You've got planner like myself, so I do full planning, but
Hmm.
I also do coordination. I
Hmm.
can also coordinate your wedding if you don't want full planning services. And if you think my level service is very high, then I have teams of
Hmm.
people under me. I could send one of my junior team members to you.
Hmm.
Every planner has this option. And we all know somebody who can
Hmm.
work in your budget. We all know somebody who can work in your budget.
Hmm.
Every one of us know it.
Okay.
There will be a difference in quality, there may be a difference in level of service,
Hmm.
but we know somebody who can do it.
Hmm.
Because our job as a planner is to have all the options available to suit all budgets.
Hmm.
See, it's a choice. Like I choose to do NRI destination weddings. Okay,
Hmm.
this is my forte, destination weddings. So if
Hmm.
you told me to do a wedding in Bombay,
Hmm.
right, or Delhi, I'd be like, you know what, there are better people for that. There are
Hmm.
people who are much better
Hmm.
at figuring out in this city than I am. Whereas if you tell me, Divya, can I do a wedding in London and Mauritius and Thailand and here and here? I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that because those are destinations I work with and it's my forte and it's my speciality. So your wedding planner is an extension of your family.
Hmm.
Your wedding planner is always looking out for your best
Hmm.
interest as a couple and as a family. Your
Hmm.
wedding planner is there to help you monitor that budget
Hmm.
and keep you in check and be realistic about what to expect
Hmm.
at your wedding.
Hmm.
They are there to manage all the multiple suppliers that you have at your wedding.
Hmm.
So you in your planning phase right now, Anjali, how many suppliers do you think you've got off the top of your head?
I I think there are a lot of them, like makeup, mehendi, and food and hotel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So you right now, 3, 4 months before your wedding,
Hmm.
can barely count off 4 people. Like right now, because I asked you so randomly. But if
Hmm.
you talk to a wedding planner, they'll be like, oh, actually, there's 26 suppliers, and these are the junior teams, and this is this.
Hmm.
Because they are good at managing people.
Right.
You will be great at managing these suppliers prior to the wedding.
Hmm.
1 month before the wedding, you're going to be fed up of them.
Hmm.
Before the wedding, 2 weeks before the wedding, you're going to want to throw your phone with the amount of calls that
Hmm.
come through.
Hmm.
That's why a wedding planner is a good investment. And I tell this to all my family. Do
Hmm.
you, well, all my couples
Hmm.
and their families, is like, do you want to work during your wedding? Do you want to be answering the calls?
Hmm.
Anjali, I know you've seen it because you laughed at this. You've seen my bhaiya videos, right? Like how many bhaiyas do I have to coordinate when it
Right.
comes to a wedding? Like the number of bhaiyas. And these
Hmm.
are not even suppliers. I'm talking about little suppliers who come
Hmm.
in, the ancillary suppliers who are coming in for one basic level of service,
Hmm.
right? When someone will say, oh, how many suppliers could it take? And I'm like, actually, do you know how many people there are at this wedding?
Hmm.
So you don't want to be doing that back end work. And now with social media sort of taking over, like you've got a photography team, you have a social media
Hmm.
real team, then you've got like on the day media team, then you've got your hair and makeup artist. But that's just the bride. What about the bride's family hair and makeup artist and the groom's family hair and makeup artist? Who's going to coordinate them and coordinate the photographer to make sure all the photos are taken on time? Is your bridesmaid, the one who's in charge of this, going to try and enjoy the wedding a little bit, or is she just going to be on her phone the whole time?
Hmm. No,
And
absolutely.
and this is where I tell people like the money you spend on a wedding planner
Hmm.
is the money that will save you headache
Hmm.
for the entire duration of your planning. Because you then don't need to talk to 20, 30, 40 suppliers. You need to talk to one person who's your planner, and it's this planner's headache to speak to all your other suppliers. It's
Hmm.
up, it's up to them. You don't need to worry about it.
Hmm. No, I completely agree on that point. I have been there in that phase as well. And then if even if I am not taking the toll, I think my parents are or my groom is, right? So
Exactly.
Mm,
And you don't want that. Like the last thing you want at the wedding is like, supplier calling your dad while you're about to walk up onto the mandap and say, Sir ji, lights kab on karne hai?"
hmm,
Like you don't want any of that
hmm,
because these things do happen and it's really, really unfortunate. But it's just part and parcel of the game, which is where that
hmm,
service level of a wedding planner
hmm,
or a coordinator is super important.
hmm. No, I
Now,
really love the point about having a wedding coordinator
hmm
a month prior to the wedding. If we
yeah,
could just, elaborate a bit on what a wedding coordinator is and how does that work?
sure. In fact, I have a great video that I've recorded about this, which I can share with you. Nina. Feel
Hmm,
free to link it up. But basically, a wedding planner is a full-fledged planner. They handle all aspects of your wedding. And they come with you from 12 months prior, 6 months prior, a year, 18 months even. The longest time I've spent planning a wedding is about 18 months.
hmm,
Shortest time I've planned a wedding in is 2 weeks.
hmm.
So I can handle it. A wedding coordinator typically comes on board about a month to 3 months before your wedding.
Okay.
Okay. And they come in there. Just this one second. This
Hmm,
is unplugged. So sorry. Make sure something will get unplugged. So a wedding coordinator will come on about a month to 3 months prior to your wedding,
hmm,
and they help you oversee all your suppliers. So
hmm,
you would have done the groundwork by picking your makeup artist and selecting them and deciding on the date and the time
hmm,
and coordinating, finalizing their pricing. But then
hmm,
your coordinator's job is just to follow through with them, make sure they arrive on time to the venue, make
hmm,
sure they're at your specific dressing room on time. They will then oversee with the photographers. They won't negotiate on your behalf. They're
hmm,
not negotiators. So your planner is the one who will negotiate and root for you on your behalf. The
hmm,
coordinator is just the person that you delegate the work to
hmm,
oversee everything that you have already organized. So
hmm,
you coordinator download and say, listen, I've got 10 people who are supposed to
hmm,
come in. A transport guy is going to go pick these people up. These are the flight details. But
hmm,
their job is not to make sure the flight, they're not there to follow up with the guest. Hey, did you take your flight? They're
hmm,
just there. Oh, this is the flight list. We have to make sure a car is at the airport to pick them
hmm,
up. This is the food list. We just have to make sure the food is laid out.
hmm,
There's no
hmm,
beyond,
hmm,
right? Oh, you need photographer at this location at this time, that's the coordinator's job.
hmm,
They will make sure the makeup artist arrives to your room on time and send the photographer simultaneously.
hmm,
But if, let's say, there was a bit more to be done, or, oh, now I need, let's say, the cool, it's happened to me at a wedding. So I'll give you this example. I had a last request at like 2 a.m. in the morning during the Sangeet night from my bride, my
hmm,
groom's mom actually, and she asked for some extra service, extra items for a puja in the
hmm,
morning.
hmm,
I'm a planner. I have a whole team. I was able to manage this out and put this together.
Hmm.
Told your coordinator randomly in the middle of the night, hey, tomorrow morning for this puja, I need stuff.
Hmm.
You may not be able to get any of this
Hmm.
purely because they have not had the time to build a more solid rapport with the suppliers in order to extract that. So,
Hmm.
I, as a wedding planner who's been doing this for a very long time, I have a very good relationship and rapport with my suppliers, which means I can ask for the most ad hoc
Hmm.
request, whatever time of the day,
Hmm.
and my teams will make sure it gets delivered.
Hmm.
So, as a planner, I come to you with a recommended team and say, this is the team you should use, this is the supplier you should use, this is the photography service you could use.
Hmm.
I see, right? Because I know that they will bend
Right.
over words for you, no
Hmm.
matter what the request is, right?
Hmm.
Like it does. I just did an event right now, and we wanted to do a live feed streaming of the event that was going on.
Hmm.
The client had never talked to the team about this.
Hmm.
And because I was a planner, I was talking to the photographer and I was like, listen, I think it'd be really nice if we do this. And he's like, yeah, don't
Hmm.
worry, I've got it. He's like, I knew. He's like, I heard you hinting at it for the last few weeks. So
Hmm.
he's like, I've carried extra cable with me.
Hmm.
Right. So it can be done basis of the relationship. And if you have a good coordinator who's a good people person, they'll be able to do work for you, but they can't do the nitty gritties for you, which
Right.
you had beforehand. So if
Hmm.
you decided that your cake needs to look like, you know, your cake looks like this, right?
Hmm.
This is your, but then you received the cake and it looked like this.
Hmm.
What is the coordinator going to do? They can't do much. Whereas, again, with the planner,
Hmm.
and a good coordinator. I don't undermine them at all,
Hmm.
but we will find a way to fix this cake
Hmm.
somehow. We
Hmm.
will find a way.
Hmm.
But it's not our fault because it's something you decide.
Right.
You get where I'm coming from on that?
No, no, completely. So for someone who is a month away from their wedding, is it the time to hire a coordinator or a
Yes,
plan?
if you cannot afford a planner,
Hmm.
hire a coordinator.
Hmm.
Planner is significantly more expensive.
Hmm.
Again, in India, that differentiation between a planner and a coordinator is not clear.
Hmm.
Because I do global destination weddings, there are very clear defining roles of a planner and a coordinator and a venue coordinator. So a
Hmm.
lot of hotels in India say, oh, we'll give you a wedding planner. It's not a
Hmm.
wedding planner, it's a venue coordinator.
Hmm. Right.
They just manage your venue.
Hmm.
They're the hotel's team to manage the event, but they
Hmm.
are not interested in your wedding per se. They
Hmm.
are, but from the hotel's perspective, they
Hmm.
don't care about what you want. They care
Hmm.
about, okay, we can do this from the hotel.
Right.
So it's definitely advisable. I would say do it. Without missing a beat, just do it. If you can afford it, go ahead and do it.
Right. Lovely.
Hire the planner, hire the coordinator, just do it. Best investment. You will not regret it and you'll just be stress free.
No, no, I completely agree. I mean, yes, if you want to have a stress-free wedding, then definitely go for a planner or a coordinator, whatever your budget
Mm.
allows, say, right? So, I think to close the conversation with, we want to hear from you a final checklist for all the, DIY wedding planners out there. What is the final checklist for them?
Oh my God, what are you making me do? What's my final checklist? Okay, so checklist would be create a timeline,
Hmm.
make a timeline of the wedding. Give this to everybody who needs to know the timeline. So give it to the groom, give it to his families, give it to your bridesmaid, give it to the groomsmen. Just
Hmm.
let everybody who needs to know have your timeline in place.
Hmm.
Um, don't freak out.
Hmm.
Things will happen. Things
Hmm.
will happen that you don't even expect them to happen. Don't
Hmm.
freak out. You have to go with it. Just go with it because you don't want to ruin your day. All
Hmm.
right. Third, delegate. Delegate tasks responsibly.
Hmm.
Do this and you will make your life easy. So if you know you are working with a hotel or you've got a decor guy, you know, tell the decor and sound team to coordinate with each other.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
introduce them. Don't be shy about introducing your suppliers to each
Hmm.
other, because
Hmm.
what happens is they have more experience than you. So if you actually introduce them,
Hmm.
they can get their work done faster
Hmm.
without you having to then find a coordinator. Because
Hmm.
at least these guys know each other, they can figure out what they need to do.
Hmm.
You know, they've got that um, back end. Um, then 1 month before your wedding, just start chilling. Take some self care. You need to do this.
Hmm.
Take some time for yourself. Get a massage before the wedding. Don't
Hmm.
do any fancy hair treatments. Don't do any fancy skin treatments. No chemical peels. No bleaching. No nothing 2 weeks before the wedding. Please don't touch your face.
Hmm.
We don't want any issues coming up, right? Keep a mood board handy. So if you are a DIY person, keep a mood board handy. So you want to have a mood board that says, this is my Mendy function, this is what I expect it to look like. Give this to your decor guy.
Hmm.
Give it to your delegate, your assigned delegated person and say, just make sure all these things are there.
Hmm.
So let's say your table was supposed to have like a big centerpiece and candles all around it,
Hmm.
and you wanted 4 candles, but hey, some tables have 5 candles, some tables have 3. It doesn't matter. Don't
Hmm.
stress about it. Let
Hmm.
it be. The
Hmm.
point is, this mood board will help everybody involved in helping you with your wedding.
Hmm.
Just take a quick look and say, this is what I've got. Be organized. So if photos are important for you, make a list of all the important photos that you want,
Hmm.
give it to your photographer, and give it to that friend who loves taking photos, because they will make sure that these photos get taken.
Hmm. Hmm.
Basically, just be super organized about it and delegate responsibly and go with the flow, because it's your big day. It's going to be amazing no matter what, right? It's not going to matter.
Right.
So that
Amazing.
would definitely be my advice to anyone getting married last minute or haven't got a planner yet. And
Hmm.
you know what? You can always call me up. Just give me a call.
Definitely.
After your consultation, just give Anjali's reference.
Definitely amazing. And I think, I believe that you can't make everyone happy at your
Of
wedding.
course, you
Just.
can't. And that's the thing. Just ignore everybody else. Like, it's not important. As
Hmm.
long as you, the couple, are happy and your parents are happy and your grandparents are happy,
Hmm.
really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks at your wedding.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
I think that's very, crucial advice here you give. And thank you so much, Divya, for this amazing conversation. I think it helped me a lot and it is
I'm
going
so
to
glad.
help.
I'm so glad. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. And it is going to help a lot of the DIY wedding planners. And I think if you can't do it yourself, you should consult Divya. I'll definitely, put down her
Thank you.
credentials. And
Thank you so much.
yes, I think we have once worked together as well, and it was absolute pleasure. And I would say that it won't be a just a wedding; it would be a great party for you all as well.
I, that's what I wanted to be, a great party.
Great. Thank you so much, Divya. Lovely having you today.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Anjali. Look forward to seeing you again and hearing the next Tanya.
Thank you.